Hi, I'm Francis Livingston. The new show I have at Medicine Man Gallery is furthering my exploration with color and texture and visual interpretation of the landscape. For the painting Amber, I wanted a real high-key, soft feeling. I've painted this sort of scene before. For this particular painting, it's a small painting, but I wanted this tree to have a lot of life in it, not to be a natural color particularly, but very much guided by impressionistic colors. Beyond Chimayo is another one of my pieces that I'm pushing the modernistic and expressionistic approach in the trees, somewhat in the figures, and in the sagebrush or chamisa in the foreground. That approach you see in some of the other paintings also, and it's a simplification of the foliage and a flattening of some of the shapes. In Chamisa Colors, I wanted to paint this large chamisa with some figures riding horses beyond, but it had an intricacy to all of the branches and little leaves and all the things in the foreground that I just wanted to approach in a very linear way. So there's just a lot of brushwork in that foreground. And I wanted that to contrast with the trees and the mountains and the shapes in the background. Cottonwood Grove is one of those paintings that you try to get some kind of real mood going. Cottonwood tree, a still moment, below the tree, the dappled sunlight. It's, again, a really fun painting, but difficult painting because there's so many little things that are in this piece. You wanted to make sure that you retained your focus of the tree and figures. Dappling Woods is in a long line of forest paintings that I've done, and I continually am inspired by all the different shapes of tree trunks and leaves and rocks, and to try to get some sort of density to the forest, but still be able to see perspective and distance within the painting. Indigo Mountain is a painting that has a lot of that modernistic approach to it, and again, it's the design of the trees, the design of a lot of the foliage that sets it apart from the impressionistic paintings. They're just fun because you take something that is very realistic and you retain the idea of it, the visual idea of it, but you start working with much more design and abstraction. I love painting cachinas. They're fun, they're visually inspiring because they're already pieces of work, and I try to add to them when I paint them. I don't always stay true to the original colors, but I add some of my own. In Kachina Duo, I treat them as a piece of art, but they're already a piece of art, so I do try to go beyond that and put them in a place, and that may be just a simple environment of paintwork and color. Kachina Trio is another Kachina piece that these characters, they're symbolic of a lot of things, but they're just fun to look at, and great colors and great shapes. And I like grouping them together because that creates a different kind of feeling than having just one by themselves. The Kachinas all have different personalities, so it's nice to intermingle them and see how they work. Red Forest is a larger painting of the Dappling Woods. It's very similar in composition, but totally different in coloration and somewhat different in paint application. But it's just basically a larger piece, and it's fun to do different sizes, different color adaptations of the same painting, because you come up with similar but different approaches. In snowbanks, I have no figures, and it's not totally unusual to have a painting with no figures, because I love painting just landscapes. And I just love the interplay between the coolness of the creek and the snow and the warmth of the red and amber colored willows in the background. The idea of really observing and getting into all the little nuances of not just the willow, but the spaces between all the little willow shapes. There's a lot of intricacy in there. With snow patterns, what I really wanted to accomplish was to capture that pattern that's created when you get shadows from trees and bushes streaking across the snow. It's so unique because the shadows themselves are not dark shadows because they are on snow. And so you get this great pattern of light and shadow that is closer in value than normal shadows, say, on pavement or the ground somewhere. Sunflower View has a similar feeling to some of the others in that there's something in the foreground that you're looking through to see further into the picture plane. It's a way to capture the viewer and then have the viewer look beyond and through something, almost as if the viewer is standing on the other side of these sunflowers and they see this scene. The Turning is a fairly large painting, 36 by 36, that again is exploring that abstraction of foliage. It's still forest, it's still trees, but the trees and the colors and the shapes of the trunks and the leaves in the foreground become abstract expressionistic shapes. And that in turn gives a lot of attention to the two figures wrapped in blankets. Waiting is a small painting that I wanted to capture just a quiet mood, still in keeping with the trees and the forest type theme, but I wanted to capture just a moment. And that could be a pensive moment, that could be a quiet moment, that can be a moment where something else might be happening after, but a simple painting, some things in the foreground to draw you in and set the figure in place. In Winter Stream, the design of the painting was so incredibly important because you're starting off with this frozen creek, and that brings you back into the picture around the aspen trees and into the figures in the background. It's that feeling of light and shadow that you get on snow, but also color. And with the brushwork, I really tried to capture the weight of the snow. If the snow feels thin, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of it. The brushwork in this piece is particularly important. I hope you can come to the gallery and enjoy the show and have a wonderful time viewing the artwork.